So today's video is going to be about glass removal and peeling and peeking and why we do it. So obviously the car has 4-point stabilization at this point. Battery, the hood's been removed and battery's been disconnected. The car is in park, emergency brake on, ignition off, and patient contact hopefully has been made. If we can try before we pry to make that initial patient contact, let's do that. If we've tried to get into this vehicle and we can't by means of opening doors, opening hatchbacks, we'll have to break glass. And how we want to do that is from the most farthest point away from that patient possible because they're not covered at this point. So break the hatchback glass, break the farthest door glass as far away as possible for the safety of our patient on the inside. When we start talking about glass, what kind of glass do we have in the vehicle? Well, we all know we have laminated glass in the windshield and we have tempered glass throughout the rest of the car. Some of our newer models of vehicles now are coming with laminated glass in the doors. So what does that do for us as rescuers? Well, it makes it a little bit harder to get in, create purchase points, and make patient contact because we're not going to be able to break this glass. So what we'll have to do is action this door by the hinges if we have to remove this door and the glass stays in place. When it comes to tempered glass, obviously throughout the rest of the car, what we want to try and do when we're managing glass is to use our glass breaker, whatever glass tool you have, whether it's something like this, whether it's those spring-loaded punches. We always want to try and break glass on the highest point possible, keeping our gloves and our open skin away from glass coming in. So obviously, if Command's made the decision, say, to do a roof removal and we have to remove all the glass in this car, we're going to go around and we're going to systematically take glass out. So if this was laminated glass, we'd obviously test it. We know that's laminated glass is not going to break. We get the tempered glass. We're going to want to be up in the corner, like I say, whether you're using one of those spring mounts. And if you're using a spring mount, try to encompass your hand so it doesn't go through. My tool of choice is this. And we just let everybody know that we're going to be breaking glass, and you break the glass. Do we use our gloves? No. We can go around, take the glass out of the window. Obviously, if there's a patient there, we can try to pull the glass back towards us, keeping in mind we're pulling it into our work zone. So we'll break glass one more time here, just to show breaking glass. And then we'll break glass. So at this point, these windows are free of glass. If we were to make any kind of action on this B-post, we're going to want to pop that plastic off and try to look for charged cylinders or even uncharged cylinders because we don't know whether they've gone off or not. But what we want to do if we know we're popping plastics is to remove these seatbelts. So if you have a patient in here, try and get the seatbelt. Slice that seatbelt out. Grab your pry tool. You can get in on the B-post and you can pop that plastic loose. By popping the plastic loose, obviously taking care of where your person is located, you're looking for multiple things. Your seatbelt adjuster is right here, and that's a hardened piece of steel that's on a slide. So our cuts would want to be up here, here, or down here and here. We're also looking for undeployed or charged canisters, so for our safety when cutting. Obviously, we can take the bottom plastic out of the B-post and really take a look down there and see where that seatbelt retentioner is. So that's, we don't want to cut through that seatbelt retentioner and possibly discharge an air canister. So as you move around this car, this is exactly what you'll be doing. You break the glass, remove that plastic, peel and peek, look for that charged canister, and then you can move on and systematically do that around the car. So another technique for glass management for the safety of the occupants inside, if you have time, is to duct tape the window. A lot of times if you have like tempered glass that's laminated on there, it helps a lot. If you can't tell, put some duct tape on there. Where we would probably use this is if there's a kid in the car on a hot day locked in there and you have time to do this and they're right next to the window, a pet or something in there. So just take some duct tape, put it across the window, create a couple handles, and you just do it like you're breaking glass, and then you have your handles on there, pop that out, and you can pull the glass away from the car in one shot. So you're really minimal amount of glass in the car, scattering on the person. It'd be a good technique if you had time, if the patient was right here and you couldn't cover them up, that's the safest way for them to break glass. If you don't have an occupant in this door and you choose to spread this door this way to create your access point, or you choose to go the old school way, squeezing this door together to create your access point, we got to figure out what's inside this door as far as cylinders or hazardous dust. So a real quick technique is coming up to either the back side of the door or the front side of the door and find out where that plastic is and just give it a quick pop. You don't have to force it all the way in. What you're just looking for is, can you visually see any cylinder location? If there's not a patient here and there's no cylinders in this door, feel free to create your access point whichever way you see fit. So dealing with hatchbacks, guys, whether it's an SUV, whether it's a minivan, whether it's a car, some things to consider, things to look for our safety. In this particular hatchback, you'll see by these little steel pins here, there's a set of hydraulic cylinders that action just this window. And then inside this mini hatchback, from here to here, there's a hydraulic cylinder located. Really hard to see. It's really, unless you get really in there, you can really see where the head of this is and where the tail end is. So for our safety, how do we deal with this? We can't blindly go cutting in here because we're going to discharge that hydraulic fluid inside that cylinder, and it's not stretched out, it's compressed at this point, so that's when it's holding the most pressure. So do we want to cut into it? No, we don't. So how do we get around it? There's multiple ways of doing it. First of all, you have to break glass so we can see what's going on the inside. So obviously glass tool up high, let everybody know we're breaking glass. And when you're breaking this glass, when you see these two pins and you see those cylinders in there, it's possible that that cylinder may extend, so just be careful for that. So breaking glass, we'll pop the glass, and there goes the cylinder and it's trying to extend. There it goes. So things to look for. When we go inside, you can see where the plastic is. We popped the plastic off when we went around and softened the car originally, and we still cannot see the location of these cylinders. So if you were going to be doing a roof flap or a roof removal, and you had to cut flush with the frame of your, or the face of the windows, I would attack this like it's a hood of a car. I would obviously try before I pry, but if we weren't able to try, or we weren't successful with that, I would attack this from the bottom end with my spreaders and force it up a little bit and try and find that nadir pin. When you're putting pressure on this hatchback, have somebody here as a safety so that if it does spring before you have an opportunity to cut that the D-ring on the nadir, that in case it springs out and comes and hits you in the head, because it is still under tension with our cylinders. If you can pop it up or open it up, you have multiple options now. The first option is, do we need to remove it? Can it stay here? Absolutely. We've got a huge area here. If we're not doing the roof removal, the thing could stay. If we need to take it off, you can simply cut the steel end of your gas shock and just cut your hinges and take the door away. We could also, a lot of times you can pop these off by simply popping that retainer off, or a lot of times you can just pop that right off and it pops right off for you. When you're doing that, be careful you're not manipulating this side because you may sever the gas shock and put oil into your work zone. So at this point, we could just cut this hinge, we can pop that off, we can cut that hinge, and you can take the hatchback away. So remember, when you're actioning this, there's some things to look for. Obviously, our gas shock location. If it's visible, awesome. If it's not, deal with it like a door removal. Open the door up and really visually see where our hazards are.